Before we start, let me give you information that at Bureau we notice a slight delay in our schedule, but I hope we will catch up today and we will finish item 5C quickly. For today's session, I will ask you to be brief and concise in your intervention with the decisions that we will still have to adopt. The Bureau also had the important role of approving the spending plan for the first 6 months of 2014 under the budget line Other Functions of the Committee. As you recall from the Secretariat report yesterday, the Intangible Cultural Heritage Fund provides essential support to some key functions, such as the capacity building program that so many people mentioned yesterday with great appreciation. Our approval of the spending plan will allow the work of the committee to continue after the 1st of January. So, let us proceed further with the matters we reached yesterday. As you remember, and you can see at the reminder at the screen, yesterday we looked at the decision 8.com 5.c1 up to paragraph 8A. We adopted paragraph 1 with a small amendment suggested by Secretariat, paragraphs 2, 4A, 4B and 4C, 5C, 5D, 5E and 5F without amendments, and paragraphs 3, 5A, 5B and 8A with amendments. So, we have suspended adoption of paragraphs 6 and 7 for later in this week, when we will be discussing items related to those paragraphs. I therefore suggest that we proceed without delay to the adoption of the rest of the decision, and we will start with paragraph 8. 1 second. Paragraph 8B, with encourage representatives of accredited NGOs. So you have the text in front of you and on the screen. I apply to committee members. Any comments? Any proposals? Don't see any. Sorry, but maybe it's late for translation. So Nigeria, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We, concerning paragraph 8B, encourage representatives of accredited NGOs to participate in committee debates prior to voting on agenda. We need to know precisely when what do you mean by that? Is it before the meeting, because they meet before our meeting, or is it before we open the meeting? Because I don't understand the precise message here. Thank you.
If I may, good morning, everybody. I think it means just that accredited NGOs, as observers, are invited to participate to the general debates on the relevant items, like, for example, what one NGO did yesterday. They cannot participate, of course, on the voting of decisions as they are observers, but in order to increase their participation to the work of the committee, they are invited to give their opinions, if any, in the general debates on specific items as relevant. This is the idea behind this recommendation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Then I think we have to look at it properly, because that means we are increasing the ambit of participation of the NGOs. And I'm always careful. These meetings belong to state parties, and before we begin to bring in NGOs participation more and more into the meetings, we have to be careful here. Thank you.
What is the proposal? Give definition, please. Encourage representatives of accredited NGO to participate in committee debates prior to voting on agenda items and include the outcomes of NGO forums such as NGO statements in the committee's agendas. So, we have to follow their recommendations if they are accepted by the committee. So, if we encourage them to give their opinion, I don't see any danger for our activity. So I applied to have this position without change.
Okay, it's all right. It's fine with me. It's okay.
Thank you very much. Approved. Paragraph number 5. Further decides. Please. 9. I said 9. Yes. A. 9A. Brazil, please.
Mr. Chairman, a question. Who is in charge of doing this revision? Are we requesting the Secretary to provide a proposal that the committee will adopt in a later session? I think as Ms. Cecile Valley is nodding, I think that's our understanding is we're on the same page. We'd just like to take this opportunity to raise a question of gender. Not only gender is important when we thinking of the safeguarding of intangible cultural heritage in some specific cases. There is also a case, and this is very dear to Brazil, of promotion of the racial equality. And we come from a country where almost 50% of the population considers of African descent. And we still have an issue to overcome in terms of racial equality. We do not have anything to propose, but we'd just like the Secretary to take note when producing this revised forms, when addressing gender equality, if we could also have any other mechanism of also addressing other issues related to empowerment then that we could also report on. Thank you.
Japan, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As the number of periodic reports increases, it is appropriate to revise the reporting form to alleviate the burden for both the submitting countries and also the recipient side. And the revision of the reporting system will include some specific questions, new elements, and we welcome those points. At the same time, it is desirable to make necessary modifications in the format in order to make the processing of the report much easier and more efficient for the Secretariat. And for example, by introducing the checkbox system or multiple choices instead of answering in sentences. And so therefore we like to propose to add in the paragraph, maybe 9A, or it could be 11A, like a sentence such as, in such a manner as to alleviate the burden of the concerned parties. Thank you very much.
Thank you. No other?
Here, over here.
Grenada, please.
Yes. In terms of the decision on A, I believe that in addition to reports, the focus should be on the results. I think we should also have the activities, not rather than activities. I think activities should also be included. So you're not deleting activities. I think you're adding the results, but I think activities should remain.
Thank you. So, we have new transcription. Revised periodic reporting forms to include specific questions on policy, legislation and gender, and to ensure that the reports focus on the results, on activities, in such a manner to alleviate the burden of states parties concerned. Is it like that?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Then we approve it like that. B. Belgium.
There was some discussion about the convention theory of change, and it's not really clear, and this theory has not been developed in full. So we wonder if this passage is really necessarily linked to a convention theory of change, and we could delete that, or at least put it on file that the present convention theory of change, as it was presented in the oversight, has to be developed and improved. So, to reflect the discussion yesterday, that this convention theory of change is still in the open. So we would like to be very careful with that theory. Thank you.
So, to remove the phrase to convention theory of change, or link to a convention theory of change, or what is your
link to a so that we develop an overall results framework for the convention, including clear objectives, time frames, indicators, and benchmarks, and to have that link with that convention theory of change. We can keep it in mind, but there are also other theories that can apply here.
Indonesia.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We also, in fact, have the same understanding to what has been said by our colleague from Belgium, and it is our understanding that the point raised by our colleague from Belgium is still under our consideration, and of course it needs further in-depth discussion among us, and I tend to agree to what has been proposed by our colleague for Belgium. It's better to do away with this second part of this sentence and to delete, I think, the second part of this sentence. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Namibia. Sorry. Nigeria. Sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We also share the sentiments of Belgium and Indonesia. The theory of change is still, to us, an hypothesis, and there are other theories as well. So we agree with Belgium and Indonesia should be deleted, the second paragraph of statement. Thank you.
Thank you very much. If other delegates don't have any principal objections, so we can approve in the transcription proposed by 3 countries: Belgium, Indonesia, and Nigeria. Thank you. Approved. 9C. I don't see any hands. Thank you. Oh, sorry, Morocco.
Bonjour. Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président. Nous comprenons parfaitement l'esprit de ce paragraphe, mais nous aimerions avoir plus d'informations sur le statut des ONG qui sont concernées. S'agit-il d'ONG internationales ou d'ONG locales, d'ONG nationales ou régionales? Quel est le statut de ces ONG et quel est leur rôle exact. Ce sont là nos soucis. C'est juste une clarification qui est demandée. Nous ne nous opposerons pas au principe. Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you. Mrs. Lear.
Je vais peut-être faire deux clarifications. La première clarification, c'est que les réponses à toutes ces questions, normalement, vous les trouvez dans l'évaluation. Parce que toutes ces suggestions sont des miroirs exacts de toutes les recommandations. Donc le rationnel de tous ces projets de décision ont été écrits par le secrétariat, mais pas parce que ce sont des idées du secrétariat, mais parce que ce sont des échos aux recommandations. D'où d'ailleurs ce que je vous suggère, je l'avais fait pour, je crois, la recommandation 10 l'autre jour, si vous n'êtes pas d'accord ou convaincu d'une recommandation et que vous amendez le projet de décision, n'oubliez pas d'enlever la parenthèse qui fait référence à la recommandation, parce qu'autrement vous adoptez quelque chose qui n'est pas l'écho de la recommandation. Donc ça, c'est un premier point de principe. Donc le deuxième, c'est que sur la question, je crois avoir compris de l'évaluation qu'il s'agit de n'importe quelle ONG qui participe aux efforts de sauvegarde au niveau national et pas du tout des ONG accréditées. Et que je crois en cela que c'est, d'ailleurs je crois que même que l'évaluation y fait référence, c'est un peu un écho à ce qui se passe pour la Convention de 2005, qui a fait appel pour les rapports périodiques, non seulement au rapport de l'État, mais également à des contributions, si souhaitées, si c'est pas obligatoire, mais pour enrichir la perspective. Je crois que c'est ça, l'idée derrière.
Nigeria, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to say that we need to be specific here. If it's the NGO specific to an inscribed nomination or something on nominated or urgent list, we should say so. Because if you just put it blanket like that, it means any accredited NGOs must provide information. So we need to be specific here. The information we need, if it has to be specific to the report has to be specific on inscribed elements, not just all accredited NGOs. Thank you.
Thank you. Peru, please.
Buenos días, señor presidente. Muchas gracias por darnos la palabra. La delegación peruana piensa, como la delegación de Nigeria, que hay que aclarar este punto, porque tal como lo estamos leyendo podríamos entender que las ONG en sus informes van a dar algún tipo de juicio de valor sobre lo que los estados están haciendo. Perú, en ese sentido, propone que sería mejor eliminar el punto C.
Brazil.
Mr. Chairman, for us, this recommendation is quite interesting. I don't know how we could perhaps try to come to a compromise with the positions of Nigeria and Peru. In our exercise of reporting to the 2005 convention, in Brazil we gathered the civil society in this effort, and we found this quite positive. And we worked a lot with NGOs on the ground, and I think they are in a position to provide important information to the periodic reporting exercise. I don't know how we could come to a compromise. So through you, I would turn to Peru and Nigeria if they can perhaps try to see a middle ground so that we can still have this somehow reflected. Thank you.
I think the proposal is quite direct. I mean, to delete the item. So, if all other delegations, Indonesia, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My delegation, of course, also has particular attention to this proposed paragraph. Of course, we in Indonesia also always together with our NGOs. I try to I tried to make a proposal, hopefully with or can have a middle ground for our colleagues. Our proposal is to include, after by state parties, to include the word including with information provided by NGOs. So the information provided by the NGOs is not the only one, and of course it is still under the purview of the state parties. Thank you.
Thank you. Granada, please.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to support the two previous speakers to say that I believe that we cannot ignore the work of the NGOs, and therefore I think state parties need to review the work. They work closely with the government, state parties and NGO, and we can use the information given to support whatever we need to do.
Thank you. Burkina Faso, please.
Merci bien, Monsieur le Président. Je crois que déjà pour l'élaboration des rapports périodiques, la participation donc des ONG est vivement souhaitée, conseillée même pour l'élaboration de ces rapports périodiques-là. Donc je crois que quand même déjà ces ONG-là interviennent donc dans l'élaboration des rapports périodiques. Également, je crois que le secrétariat nous a proposé un document donc d'évaluation de l'action des ONG au niveau national. Et forcément que dans ce document d'évaluation, les ONG vont effectivement revenir sur ces aspects-là. Je crois que c'est quand même une disposition qu'il convient de maintenir. Merci bien, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you. Yes. So, Nigeria, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. People are a bit confused about what I'm saying. What I'm saying, I'm not saying NGOs should not participate, but the NGOs, the report should be specific to NGOs who we are reporting on the inscribed elements. It's not just any NGO. That's what I'm saying. We all know that communities and NGOs have to participate. It has to be specific to the element or the whatever you are talking, the NGOs concerned, not just any NGO. Please, that's a clarification.
Thank you. In this case, I would also propose such transcription, including the information provided by defined NGOs. This will clearly bracket the responsibility of the NGOs which are included in the list of committees, partners and whatever. If you don't mind, I think this definition will reflect all opinions. Belgium, please.
Thank you for the proposal, but defined NGOs is a new term and we cannot really understand.
Maybe my English is not so good. You try to find the word which will reflect the idea of Nigeria. Let's think over. Appointed, I don't know. Approved NGOs. What is this? Relevant. Relevant. Accept? Fine. So, relevant NGOs. If you don't mind, Egypt. Okay? Fine. Japan. Okay?
Thank you. Relevant is all right, but I'd like to make one clarification. In this sense, Secretariat will gather separately the information from the relevant NGOs. And there is the idea that each state party submit a report, that NGO's views is included in that report. But this specifies that the Secretariat will collect directly from an NGO along with the submitted report. Is that right?
Madame Duvet.
I think it's up to you to decide, and we have not clear position on this idea. We can whether provide a way for you to report, including the contribution of NGOs, relevant NGOs, or invite relevant NGOs to contribute to the report aside or in parallel with the states. That is to be decided, I think.
I think that this is not Azerbaijan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. While fully recognizing the importance and of involvement of NGOs in the process of reporting and in the implementation of the convention, we are a bit puzzled, and we need some clarification about the methodology of providing the information and the information from NGOs, and how this information will be kind of checked with its correctness and etc., and how the Secretariat will communicate with state party about the correctness of the information provided by NGO. Thank you.
Namibia, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. Our understanding was that the information provided by the NGOs is part of the report by a state party, and if this is the case, our suggestion would be to maybe to turn around the paragraph 9C and say, encourage states parties to complement the data gathered on the implementation of the convention through periodic reports with information provided by relevant NGOs. Thank you, Mr. Chairperson.
Thank you, and Nicaragua.
Gracias, señor presidente. Nosotros recogemos la preocupación de Japón y apoyamos la propuesta de Namibia, que recoge el espíritu de la Convención en su artículo 29, donde los Estados partes son los que deben presentar los informes. Claro, es muy importante de que los informes contengan datos facilitados por la ONG, pero presentados los informes deben ser para los Estados partes. Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much. Colleagues, if we will pass to the paragraph 10, then we will see the request to the Secretariat to propose draft text of the operational directives accordingly concerning the points in paragraph 9. So what we discuss now is the methodology of implementation of this recommendation. That's why we, in the paragraph 10, we apply to Secretariat to propose the draft of the operational directives according concerning the points of paragraph 9 of the present decision, and reflecting its debates during the present session for examinations on the committee at the 9th session. If we will see this paragraph and approve it, then the questions concerned asked by Japan, Azerbaijan and Nicaragua are coming to its logical decision at the next session. Don't you mind? Can we accept it like that? Okay? Thank you. So, with that, we approve paragraph 10 also, yes? I can understand like that. Thank you. Paragraph 11. Further question to Secretariat. A. Any objections? Don't see any. 11B. Latvia.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Latvia would like to pay attention to the recommendation 7 of the Annex 1 of the document 5C, which is currently not directly reflected in the draft decision, and which concerns the capacity building strategy and its response to the implementation challenges at the national level. So we would very much appreciate a response from the Secretariat concerning eventual considerations and explanations at this regard. And as far as Latvian opinion is concerned, we would appreciate the presence of this recommendation within the decision, and eventually, which might be in the paragraph 11b after mentioning recommendation 4. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other proposals? Other delegates don't mind to take this paragraph into consideration with the recommendation number 7 also? If so, we approve. So it will be recommendation 4 and recommendation 7. Thank you. 11C. Don't see objections. Thank you. D. Don't see any objections. Thank you. And E. Thank you. Paragraph 12. I don't see any objections and proposals. Thank you very much. So, approved. So, since we have bracketed several paragraphs on this decision, I propose we suspend debate now and return to adopt the entire decision later in this week. I mean the bracket 6 and 7. So, our work is not finished. As you remember, yesterday we had another report of the OC, sorry. And we had draft decision on paragraph 5.c.2. Madame Duvel, could you briefly introduce?
Yes. As you remember, the audit has fewer recommendations than the evaluation, and several of them refer to things already in practice in the 2003 Convention, as some of you noticed, I think, yesterday. Paragraph 4, for instance, points out that our existing subfund already satisfies recommendation 1A and invites only for more contributions to this subfund. Paragraph 5 similarly takes note that our customary practice for translation and interpretation, which is 6 languages for the General Assembly, 2 for the committee, and other languages funded by extrabudgetary means, satisfies recommendation 1D. Paragraph 6 of the draft decision underlines that the existing financial regulations for the ICH fund permit the application of the organization's cost recovery policies for direct costs, which is recommendation 1E, and request that the Secretariat apply it consistently when using the fund. This item returns under your agenda item 11 when approving the use for the resources of the fund, and so you may wish to bracket it for later discussion if need be. Paragraph 7 reflects the fact that the culture sector has already put in motion its response to recommendation 3 of the audit by establishing a Convention Common Services team effective 1st January 2014, as explained by ADGCLT yesterday. Paragraph 8 responds to recommendation 4 and calls upon the Secretariat to work towards a coordinated fundraising strategy for all the conventions and to present it to you for your consideration. That was also raised yesterday. Paragraph 9 invites the committee to acknowledge the need to better align the workload of the Secretariat to the available resources in line with the recommendation 1B, and I think in particular Japan yesterday raised it. Paragraph 10 reflects the fact that the biennial frequency of General Assembly meetings is established in the Convention and the possibility that annual meetings of the committee should be maintained, but points in the direction of reducing the duration and agenda of those meetings in line with recommendation 1C. The same recommendation 1C suggested synchronizing the meetings of the governing bodies of different conventions, and paragraph 11 asked the Secretariat to explore the advantages and disadvantages to such synchronization and to put it before your decision at a later stage. Finally, Mr. Chairperson, in line with your suggestion to bracket several paragraphs from the previous decision, the committee may also wish to bracket paragraph 12, which responds to the recommendation 2 about reducing the cost of advisory services, as here again you will have an item later in the week on the question of the status of the two bodies.
Thank you. It's clear what we should do. I propose to start discussion, position by position. So item draft decision 8, com5.c.2, paragraph 1. Any objections? Don't see any. Paragraph 2. Thank you. Paragraph 3. Belgium, please.
Thank you, Chair. As we changed the decision in 5C1 to take note instead of welcome, we would suggest doing the same thing in this decision. Thank you.
No objections to the Belgium proposal? We approve it? Thank you. Approved. Take note of the finding of the audit. Paragraph 4. Thank you. Oops, sorry, Belgium.
Thank you, Chair. Maybe a minor amendment, because we had pretty much the same para in the General Assembly of World Heritage, and there we changed, I think it's the 5th phrase, contributions to the sub-fund in the amount of at least $1,100,000 a year. The impression might arise that every contributing voluntary contribution should at least be 1 million, which might scare away some possible donors. So let's make it of at least $1,100,000 in total per year, or per year in total.
So you propose to add the word in total. Thank you. No objections to these proposals? Namibia?
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. We find the last part of the decision a bit unclear when we say invites future contributions from them and others. There are those who have already contributed and those who have not contributed. So we thought if we could change to say invites all state parties to contribute to the sub-fund in a sustainable manner. Thank you, Mr. Chairperson.
I think it's a very good proposal. If members don't mind, we will accept the definition of Namibia. Thank you. So, paragraph 5. No objections. 6, there is a proposal by Secretariat to put it in brackets and pass to and discuss this paragraph later on, after we will return to the discussion in general, I mean. Okay. So, we pass to paragraph 7. Thank you. Paragraph 8. Brazil, please.
Thank you, Chair. Would that be feasible to have these proposed fundraising strategy to be presented for the consideration of the committee at its next session? If it's so, I see the Secretary nodding, so I would suggest adding for its consideration at its 9th session. Thank you.
No objections? Thank you. Paragraph 9. Thank you. Paragraph 10. Thank you. 11. Japan, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I asked a question about the rationale of the cooperation among three conventions yesterday, and I was quite satisfied with the answers from the Mr. Secretary, Mr. Vanderin. It is important and meaningful to pursue practical cooperation, but as to the synchronization of the meeting, I think there are some difficulties, but it's okay to study. But in order to alleviate the burden of the Secretariat, I suggest that we change the term encourage, request from the third line from the bottom, request to encourage, and delete, and to report to its 9th session on that study. Thank you.
What is the opinion of Secretary? If you don't mind, can we accept such kind of definition? Nigeria.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think it's important for a study to be conducted and reported to the 9th session. It's very important, so we know the rationale, the pros and cons of that study. Thank you.
Can we adapt then in this version to change the word request into encourage and leave without any changes the end of the sentence? Belgium, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Just a question, because who is going to do this study? It's mentioned the Secretariat, but this is about all conventions, not just the 2003 convention. So who are we addressing this question to? Thank you.
Please, this is a good question. Yeah. This is the matter of UNESCO in general, yeah. This, all committees and all conventions must be involved. Mr. Pandaran proposed to encourage, not Secretariat, but UNESCO General Directorate to study those advantages and so on. In this case, we must not leave a report to a nice session, but give recommendations somewhere. So let's apply to the Director General for such kind of correlations and proposals, and not to limit them with the time, because it's not our responsibility to give them such kind of advices. Okay? So we leave, we take away to report to its 9th session on the study, and we write encourage the Director General of UNESCO to study these advantages and so on. Approval like that? No objections? Thank you very much. Again, Secretariat proposes to have the paragraph 12 to be discussed later on. And if you don't mind, we once again since we have paragraph 6 and 12 on this decision postponed, I propose we suspend debate and return to adopt the entire decision later during this week. So the final examination of item 5C is therefore suspended to the end of this week. Thank you very much.